is retention is a critical issue today. I mean, if you look at CEOs, 97% of CEOs said their number one concern is retention, whether it's
retention of their top team?
Correct. And that is because, we touched upon this earlier, share prices have dropped exponentially, so they're easier to, top talent's easier to attract. And simultaneously, some of these emerging or hot markets like China or India, where the turnover is much greater than any other country, they need to train or have a deep bench, if you will.
So you're looking at a lot of different companies in a lot of different industries. And what are the qualities that are going to be needed in the coming 5 years, let's say? Are there any common factors that you're finding across industries that are going to be most valuable?
Well, you have the historical ones of setting the vision, strategy, articulate communications. What we found over the last 5 years was more of the EQ side of the equation versus the IQ. Now, just to throw another acronym in there, what we're saying is going to be critical going forward, given the global nature of business today, is the CQ, and that's the cultural quotient. Because not only as a leader do you have a myriad of cultures to deal with, it's how do you communicate effectively across those as well.
It's quite striking to me how interested executives, CEOs in particular, have become in culture in recent times. Because I can remember a time, and I bet you can too, when culture was sort of too soft and squishy for a big deal CEO to worry that much about. And now they all seem to understand this is critical. Is that what you see?
Well, absolutely. And if you look at how do you drive and sustain a business going forward, company culture is critical. Particularly this new generation, Generation Y. We've spent a lot of time with CEOs consulting and counseling them on corporate culture and how do you give honest and direct feedback to the next generation, because they're reputed to have 14, this Generation Y are reputed to have 14 jobs by the time they're 38. So going back to retention, how do you drive an organization and a strategy with that type of turnover?
Right. For a long time there was a belief that was fairly widespread that a well-trained manager, someone who had the techniques well learned, could be put into almost any business and whip it into shape and be successful there. I've heard some people saying more recently that that theory is flawed. This is sort of the heart of your business. What do you think about it?
I think you're right. And what we've seen statistically and through research is you can get, if you will, the best athlete. I think that was a term frequently used. That you take them from a manufacturing company and try to put them into consumer goods company. I think there are a few examples of that being successful. There are also a number of examples where it hasn't been so successful. And having an understanding, if you will, and we go through cycles. So you'll see CEOs come in with a growth agenda. You'll see CEOs come in with a restructuring agenda or a path where CFOs evolve into the CEO role. And it depends at that point in the evolutionary cycle of an organization what type of leader they actually need. But taking somebody today from a manufacturing company and sticking him in to run a consumer goods company, I think it's a high-risk bet. And so, yes, I think you're right.
They need domain knowledge, as the researchers call it. They need to know the field.
They do it, and it's become more specific. Understanding a certain industry has become very, very specific.